listening to the Sheena Metal Experience with your host, Sheena Metal LA Talk Radio.
It's the Sheena Metal Experience right here on LA Talk Radio. For more info on the show, latalkradio.com, SheenaMetalExperience.com. Don't forget to email me and let me know what you think of the show. My guest all this hour is stuck in LA traffic of the damned and will be here in just seconds. I am just waiting on her. So excited to have her here. She is one of my favorite guests in the whole world and one of my favorite people in the whole world and one of my very good friends. Of course, the wonderful Michelle Clunie is joining us today. I am just now giving her the suite number so we know she is on her way to the LA Talk Radio compound, or she is inside the compound. We're going to be talking about many things, including tomorrow being Friday the 13th, of course, and yesterday being September 11th. It's kind of a strange place to be stuck on a Thursday the 12th in between. September 11th, still a sad day, still a melancholy day. I woke up yesterday morning, and I was having trouble going back to sleep real early, and I thought I was going to try to take a nap, and I thought I'll just watch TV for a little while, turn on MSNBC, which is usually what I do first thing in the morning. And there was MSNBC was running the original 9/11 footage and running it in real time. So we were watching what actually happened at the actual same time that it happened. So if it was 9:50 in the morning, I think, and I was watching the 9:50 footage. And I don't know that we needed to watch that all in real time. Well, what was happening when I turned it on was the planes were in the tower, but the tower hadn't collapsed yet. And I just thought that was just terribly sad, and that I know that we need to not forget, and I don't ever want to forget, but 12 years later, do we need to watch the entire thing over in real time? Michelle, welcome to the show.
Why, hello.
So great to have you here. I introduced you and told everybody you were stuck in LA traffic of the damned.
Yeah,
that LA.
Boy,
I was talking about how MSNBC, did you see yesterday?
I did.
Ran the 9/11 footage in the morning, like in real time, the original footage.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that.
So like at 9 in the morning, I turned on the TV, and it was 9 something, and that was what it would have been at 9 something on.
Did that disturb you that they did that?
It disturbed me, but I just don't know that we need to watch that all again from the whole way through in real time.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe some people do. I know for me, I watched the footage maybe, when I did the play, The Mercy Seat. My preparation to go out on stage is I watched the towers collapse over and over, and I listened to the calls from people in the towers, and that was the only way that I could imagine that walk that my character took down there in the financial district before she goes back with the cheese and crackers. Anyway, so that was my preparation, and I will tell you that after doing that day in and day out, 5 days a week, I got to a point where I started to have these really odd nightmares, and I would wake up in the middle of the night unable to breathe. And I went to my doctor, and he's like, you might want to stop doing that, because it's creating this intense anxiety. And I'm empathetic to begin with, as you know.
Yes.
And so I was putting myself in the situation of the people in the towers.
Just sometimes what a good actor does when they study. Not what every actor does, but some do.
Yeah, and then there's this one man, this phone call where he's saying to a 911 caller, he kept saying to her, lady, you got to get somebody here. It's warm. Do you understand? It's warm. It's fucking hot. You got to get somebody here. And then, the towers collapse. I mean, I just have all these. I still carry all these people that I listen to over and over in my mind and my heart.
I can imagine.
And so, that's what I think of on and I mean, yesterday I had such just so many different things going through my mind and my heart, because we were in Toronto when this happened.
Right.
The boys were all shooting. I had the day off. My friend Sharon had just flown in. She worked at Variety magazine. She covered the independent film section, and she was there for the Toronto Film Festival. And I had just moved into this huge loft, and we were out drinking the night before. I mean, we woke up hungover. She had to run to the airport, and I was still sleeping, and I got this call from her saying, and she was panicked, and she said, I'm on the tarmac. They won't allow the plane to take off. There's reports of a bomb that just went off in New York. And I'm thinking, a bomb. What does that mean? I didn't even have any cable, and this is before social media.
Sure.
Right. We didn't know what was going on. You couldn't just go online and say, oh, well, what are my Twitter feed?
And that's how I found out about the Japan earthquake from Twitter.
Well,
I mean, you find out about things now because it immediately hits Twitter as soon as somebody hears about it.
I do. I go to my Twitter feed and my Facebook feed, and especially if you're friends with a lot of different people who are obsessed with the news, you find out what's happening quicker than anyone.
And I have a lot of conspiratous friends, so they're always on there first.
So you're the first to know when 8 people are running the world.
Exactly.
So it's good to see you, by the way.
It's good to see you too.
And I'm sorry I'm late. I know this is all last minute.
No, it's okay.
Good.
Yeah, I had a cancellation today because I had a big rock star band coming,
yes.
and then their manager decided to divert them somewhere else on a big rock star mission.
What are they crazy?
And I'm right?
I will take every opportunity to speak with you.
I know.
Not
I
only
love that.
the fact that we always go grab our Greek food afterwards in the lamb chops.
And I've actually seen you now off the air more than on the air.
That's right.
I've seen you twice now off the air.
This feels so formal.
I know, isn't it strange? But you know what? I think that this is a good time to have you because you are such an insightful and aware of everything going on in the world guest. And I like that because I think that sometimes artists can do two things that are bad. One is they get so into the arts that they don't think about regular things that is happening in the world. And I think as artists we need to be totally tapped into that because everything that we do, every part that we play is reflective of something that's going on in the world. The other thing is I think, but this can be a very myopic business and you worry about what's going on in the business and not what's going on outside.
Do you?
No, I'm not.
I need to worry more. No.
I'm the world person. I think I need to worry less. But then also sometimes a lot of people in our industry kind of talk out their ass about stuff they don't know what they're talking about.
Well, I do feel, it's funny, and I do want to go back to that morning. This is how Sheena and I talk. By the way, we have 8 different conversations going on. We're riding so many trains that this are dinners we hardly eat. We're talking.
It's like Pilates for our brain.
Yeah, it's like Pilates for the mouth. Whoa. So anyway, I sometimes feel like I don't know what I'm talking about, only because my friends are specialists in their field of whatever their chosen field is, politics or mental health or doctors, and so I always feel like I'm the one who knows the least in the room, and sometimes I cut myself short. But I try to have an idea of what's going on, and I think it's interesting that I am here during these last couple days. I think that looking back, I think 9/11 for me, you look back and you see what the last 12 years has meant to the new generation, to us, to the country,
to New York.
the world, to New York. You look at the way people see the world and the fact that we're becoming so comfortable with giving up our civil liberties and our privacy, and there's we struggle with that. That's a new argument that we're looking at. And you also see, Bill de Blasio won the Democratic primary. I just got chills, by the way, when I said that, because it makes me so happy that it's the first time anyone's ran a race without using snail mail, without using paper. It was a green race, and he did such a great job, and he really spoke from the heart. He's a great guy. I've met him and his wife, who when I lived in New York briefly, befriended me, and we spoke, and we were going to, I'm sure I would have gotten to know her more. She was lovely woman, strong, smart, compassionate, and he ran a race that was for and of the people, and it makes me so happy that he won, because I think it's a testament to the fact that we still live in a democracy, which I'm always looking for signs of life, signs of a democracy,
right, signs of hope,
and that corporations do not rule us yet, as much as they try, and there were other candidates that to see them lose, as much as I don't like to see anyone lose, I think it was healthy. I think it's a sign of the times that we live in, that you can't just be ambitious, maniacally ambitious, and win. And that makes me so happy.
Well, and interesting, right? Anthony Weiner putting in the most money per vote
Wiener did?
And getting
per vote. Yeah, but
per
what
vote,
did he get? Like
and getting the least amount of votes. No, so I think he
His
put the
mother,
most into his
wife.
campaign, and then got the least amount of votes.
Yeah.
So it's not just
Yeah.
about how much money you put in.
Yeah, well, and Spitzer too.
And that's wonderful. It's not about the
Spitzer
money.
as well put in a boatload of money. And Stringer still came through, and I think, but getting back to De Blasio, the way I see it is that he's the liberal pragmatist,
Sure.
and New York hasn't had a liberal mayor for quite some time, and I think that this is a real sign of, it's a shift in the center. We've been stuck between Reaganism and Clintonianism, and I think that this is a shift where you're going to see that people are starting to wake up and realize that something has to be done.
Right.
That liberal isn't a dirty word anymore. It's actually steeped in common sense.
Right. Well, and that liberals are of the people and of the working man, and that liberal doesn't mean just like 5 foo-foo people in L.A. with a lot of money with shoes made of hemp.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
liberal is hardworking Americans who just, I think that everything's gotten so far right and so far left.
Oh, yeah.
That we've forgotten there's no place in between for anybody who feels in between.
Since what, 1981, since
and
Reagan.
I think in a lot of ways it's making many of us centrists in a way.
Yeah.
There is, I've been liberal my whole life. I've been on the left my whole life. I consider myself to be extremely socially liberal, but there's just some things that are just too far left for me.
Yeah,
I don't like extremes on either end.
No.
And I don't like to see bullying, and I don't like to see lying happening from either side, even my own side.
Absolutely. But I think when common sense is seen as being liberal or crazy or radical,
right, that's ridiculous.
I think that's what we've been up against. And I think the shift that we're seeing is not just in politics, but I think it's also in even in the LGBT struggle. The argument for some time from the Christian right was, those people are immoral, those people are bad, and
absolutely.
Now the new argument has now shifted to, it's more of a freedom, we're free, freedom of religion, freedom of discrimination, freedom to be assholes. They're trying to come up with, that's the Louis C.K. thing that's coming out in me lately. but you're starting to see that for the last 30 years they have been framing the arguments, and we have slowly, by chipping away and using our voices, and I think social media has a lot to do with it.
Sure.
People are empowered more than ever, and I think through this real concerted effort, you're seeing the shift happen, and I think Bill de Blasio is a product of that.
Yeah.
I think that I think that the millennials, I think that's a generation that's so defined by what they've seen economically,
right. And what they find on the internet,
and what they find on the internet, and it's a really interesting generation. It's a really interesting
they're
generation.
a researching generation. They don't just take what they hear in a speech on faith.
Yeah.
They go and they listen to BBC America. They check out other news around the world. They go and they look up facts on the internet. Yeah. They're an interesting little group of researchers.
Yeah, they're real. They're realists too. I mean, they grew up with war on their soil.
It's true.
Whereas of course we had Pearl Harbor, but it was still over there.
Right.
This was New York City.
New York is our heart.
Yeah, it's
to happen
absolutely
right in the heart of the country. That's our heart.
Yeah.
It's New York is so important to us.
Yeah. And that was not to circle back, but to circle back.
Please circle back.
I'm circling back. Pilates. It's that morning for me, I know Sharon called, and I said, well, come back and we'll figure out what's going on. And this nice Canadian next door helped me hook up my cable, and of course the cable never showed up, so he helped me, and we started to find out what was happening, and I couldn't believe it. I went into this very strange take care of everyone mode. I started cleaning. Sharon got there. I started cooking. I ordered pizza. I think at some point they called it on set. They called the day, and they shut down the set. The boys were shooting that day. They realized nothing was going to get done, and everyone was walking around like a zombie. Gail showed up at my door. I think Hal and Peter came over. We all ended up at Scotty's.
Wow.
And we watched the coverage for about it felt like 6 or 8 hours until we just couldn't see it anymore. We really watched it all together, and we talked about it, and we got through it together. And that next week, we had this lovely Canadian crew, the best ever, filled with so much love, and surrounded us, and they understood, that here, this thing was happening in our country, the first time we had war in our soil on the mainland, and it was frightening. We didn't know what it meant, and they just surrounded us with so much love and care and understanding, and
wonderful.
Lack of any sort of they're just beautiful. I love Canadians, and that whole week I'd just gotten this loft, this it was a huge 2,000 square foot loft, and it became this refuge for people were stranded there because of the Toronto Film Festival. So a lot of Hollywood was just stranded there, and they hadn't booked hotels in advance. And so, people were coming in and out of my loft. At one point, I think people were showing up just for fun. And it became
awesome.
like a place where people could come and relate and drink and talk. And my friend Sharon was there, and she was trying to get back home because, Variety magazine was like, you got to get back to work. And she's like, I got to get back to work. And, no one really knew what was happening. And I remember I called a friend of mine, a lawyer who was in town, and said, well, Pauly Shore has rented a bus. I'm going to be on the Pauly Shore bus going back to L.A. So the big deal was Pauly Shore had a bus, going cross country. And
wow.
I got Sharon a seat on the Pauly Shore bus, and she came to me and she said, I don't want to lose my job. I need to get back home, but I'm not traveling 3,000 miles on a bus with a bunch of guys in Pauly Shore. And I said, you're lucky to have had that opportunity.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
huge. Are you kidding me? I said, I'll take the bus with Pauly Shore back.
I travel with Pauly Shore back to LA.
I'll travel with Pauly Shore.
But that was a time where everybody was helping each other. If you were ever not going to get abused on a bus, that was probably the week that was not going to happen.
Yeah, I know. I always thought that was strange. So I called up another friend of mine. They took the bus back, but it was an interesting time. It was walking around, and Bill Macy was there, and just tons of people were there. And as Americans, we were sitting at the I think it was the Peninsula, having drinks, watching the news, and just everyone was talking about what does this mean? Is this going to happen again? Or who did this? Or why did they? And
here it was completely terrifying because everybody thought we were next.
Well, yeah.
So everything shut down.
Yeah.
There were no helicopters. I remember I woke up in the morning, oddly enough, at just about the same time I woke up yesterday morning. Because I woke up, I turned the radio on, and I was working for the Howard Stern station at the time, and I heard, and Howard was on, and which was odd because normally he wasn't on that late in the day.
Wow.
And he was talking about how Madonna had canceled a concert in Los Angeles. And I thought, well, that's weird. Why is Madonna and I had friends that were going to that concert, and I thought, well, that's strange. So I kept listening. It took me about 10 minutes of listening to figure out that something really strange was going on. So I turned on the television just about the same time I turned it on yesterday and saw what I saw. The towers had not fallen yet. The planes were in. And I thought, what in the world is this? I mean, it took a while to really realize what it was. So I watched it for a while, and then I went outside and realized that there was absolutely no helicopters and no planes. And I kept the radio in my ears, and I laid out in the sun for a while and just listened. And at about 10 o'clock, Howard left. Howard evidently had been on the air since his time, since 6 o'clock New York time. He'd been on the whole time, and he needed a break. So they called Tom Likas, who was our afternoon host, and Tom had a studio in his house that he could broadcast from. So Tom picked it up at 10 o'clock. And just about that time, I got a call from our program director, and he said, look, Howard was on the air all day. Tom is now filling in for Howard. We may need you girls to come in tonight and fill in. And we did. We went in and we filled in. And basically filled in everywhere we could for the next month. And it was a month, in addition to our regular weekend slots. Right. And it was a month of, we discussed nothing but 9/11 for 30 days. Every single topic had to revolve around it. Yeah. And it was mostly just people that were scared and confused that wanted to just call up and ask questions and talk about how scared they were and throw out their conspiracy theories and what did we think about this and what did we think about that. And we had to just really become counselors on the fly.
Wow.
And now looking back, I realize what an important job that was for that month.
Yeah.
And how important that was that we were there.
Yeah.
And that we were live.
Yeah.
And that we had I think the rest of the first week, I don't think Howard was there. I think they had to run replays because I don't think he could get into New York.
Wow.
So it was a scary thing, and friends are calling in from New York and saying, I work for this person in New York. 'Cause I had all kinds of radio friends in New York, and this happened, and we saw it out the window of our building, and must have been terrifying to be there.
No, I couldn't reach anyone in New York. The first thing
I
thought is I was trying to reach friends, and no one was picking up. I couldn't get through. I got through to, I think the first person I got through to was my friend Sam. And our friend Jackie had an appointment at the World Trade Center for a job interview at 9 a.m. Well, Jackie's always late, and Jackie was late that day. And so she was running away from the building. I think she was running away from the building, and she had a piece of the building hit her on the arm. And she showed up at Sam's office. The elevator doors opened, and she was standing there with a bleeding arm, crying. And Sam told me this, as she was the first person I got a hold of that day. But she said Jackie was fine, but she had to go spend 3 months in the country because it was so.
I can't even imagine.
Talk about PTSD. She couldn't function, and it was I couldn't get a hold of my friend Josh, and I just left him. I left New York September 8th or 9th. I want to say 9th. I think it was 9th. It was.
Wow.
Yeah, I left it because my friend Sharon was coming up, and I'd said she could stay with me, and I remember leaving New York, going, I don't want to leave New York, and but she needed a place to stay, and I was like, yeah, of course you can crash with me. So I went back up to Toronto to host her, and and then 2 days later, boom, that was and I couldn't reach Josh for a long time, and I kept thinking, of course your mind goes all over the place.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then, but I remember a month afterwards, October 11th, I decided to go to New York, and it was the scariest flight of my life. But I pushed myself. I wanted to be in New York, and I wanted to go there, and I wanted to spend money, and I wanted to see friends, and I wanted to not live in fear.
Right, which they were telling us, come to New York. Come and help us out.
Exactly. I just wanted to be there and spread some cheer and see my friends and see their faces and hug everyone. But it was a scary flight going to New York because it was, it was different for that first year, I think, of traveling afterwards. Of course, it's been different ever since with the security, but that first month was interesting.
Now, what was it like when you were there? What was it like to fly a month after?
Well, I will tell you this. Everyone was looking at each other. I mean, I'm not going to lie.
Oh, like who was on the plane?
Yeah, everyone was hyper
weird?
aware.
Are you weird?
Yeah, and I'm looking at people. They're looking at me. Everyone's looking at each other. That's just how it was. And then I got there, and everything was fine. I was on a subway. I can't remember where I was. A friend of mine. We were on this subway going someplace, and it stopped out of nowhere. The subway stops. The lights go down, and beep beep. The conductor comes on, and he says, I'm sorry, everyone, and for that moment, it was actually, he came on, and then the lights went out, but for that moment, I locked eyes with a woman across from me, and we thought the worst. I mean, we thought, well, what's going to happen? A chemical attack in the subway system, or, you just didn't know. And I was going to stay on the subway, and as soon as the lights came back on, I got off. I was like, okay, that's a bit much for me.
Right, yeah,
but
I agree.
And I've never been afraid riding the subway before, but it was... Yeah, it was interesting. I was in the Village, and I remember I was at this corner bar, drinking with all my friends, and they came by in their bagpipes and their kilts, and being Scottish, I just broke out into tears, and everyone came out on the street with their beer and hugging each other,
awesome.
And bagpipes going through the Village, and there was definitely a feeling of love. It was everywhere. You could feel it. Everyone was so nice and
it was that way
loving.
here too.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I mean, I'm sure in a much different way because we weren't the same kind of survivors New York was.
Yeah.
But I think so many of us here either are from there, have family from there, have friends there. I mean, we're really like sister cities split by 3,000 miles.
Yeah. Well, they say that 20% of Americans know somebody who died on 9/11.
Right. I do not.
Yeah.
I know somebody whose mother died.
I know, Robert's friend was on a plane, I believe from San Francisco to Boston. Was it? Yeah, and that's the only person I know.
Yeah. I know.
And I know Jackie who was hurt.
I have a friend who had a client, and one of his best friends was on one of the planes. And I have a friend whose mother died in the Trade Center. But that's not very close considering.
Yeah.
But I have a friend who worked for a radio host who had an apartment across the street and saw the whole thing and had a little bit of a breakdown.
I'm sure.
And he was out here, so he was trying to get a hold of his friend in New York and find out if they were still going to do the show that night. And really kind of, he's like, look, he called me and he's like, look, he's not doing well.
Yeah.
And I everybody reacts in a different way. I mean, there were people calling up when I was on the air, people calling and crying. And we were on the Stern station. It was a lot of sex and relationship talk before that.
Yeah.
This was not a station where we did shows like I do here.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a station where it was like car sex and boxers or briefs and is cheating okay? And then suddenly we're discussing, how do you feel about death? Did you lose someone? How do you feel about the country? I mean, it seriously became, people just needed to purge.
Yeah, yeah.
And in a big way, and to talk about it, because a lot of people didn't have anybody to talk to about it.
Yeah, yeah. I think the whole country went through PTSD.
I think we still are going through it.
And we're still going through it.
Yeah, and a general melancholy.
A bit of an identity crisis.
And depression. I think the whole country's been depressed.
Absolutely. No, as a whole, collectively, definitely, we've been through something, and I think we're coming out of it. I think that for some reason I have to tell you, Bill de Blasio winning yesterday, I know it's not the answer to everything, and he certainly hasn't. He still has to go up against his Republican rival, but I do believe that there's something so very hopeful about that, and I hang on to stuff like that because I think that you have to. You have to see that, everything that's wrong with this country, everything that this country has been through, this country can still fix itself.
Yes.
Still, our forefathers gave us the tools to be able to self-heal. And so when I see something like that yesterday, I just think, okay, you know what, we're going to be okay.
And we kicked out the British over essentially corporations because they basically wanted to use us for all our natural resources. We sent the good wood there and got the bad wood for us, and examples like that. And then the Civil War was basically over corporations because the South was making and exporting through so much money through slave labor. Yeah. So it's not we've done it before. We've kicked it out before. Yeah. And we'll do it again.
Yeah. I think it's unbreakable. I do think the American spirit is unbreakable. I do. And that's the patriot.
Now, how do you feel? I know, I'm such a patriot. How do you feel when liberal friends tell you that they don't like words like patriotism and that liberals shouldn't use words like patriot and liberty because we sound like Republicans?
No, I don't even listen to them. And you know what? A lot of my friends don't. Look, Peter Page said he doesn't like it when people bash America. He's very proud of his country.
He's
very
too.
liberal, and I think that's the trend too. I think there's something about what happened yesterday. There's something about this. When people reclaim words, groups
absolutely
reclaim words. I think we're reclaiming the word liberal, and it doesn't have to be this word that we've allowed them to define. This meaning that they've attached to it. The people I talk to, and just like you and everyone in my life, they're liberal, but they're very proud of this country and proud of what we can do when we come together. And I'm
awesome.
So proud of that part of America. I mean, of course, there are the things that frighten me to tears, but there's so much about this country that is so great. And people still run to it. And I think being an American, I don't think is something, to me, it's just because you're born on the soil, it doesn't mean that we're the only people in the world who are Americans. I think it's being an American can apply to anyone who wants a better life, who has a dream, who's willing to come to this country and fight for it. And that's what I love about this country. It's inclusive. It includes everyone, and we have to fight to maintain that.
Well, and talk to anybody who's an immigrant or whose parents are immigrants.
Well, Linda Sanchez, she was raised by her parents came over from Mexico, and I'm doing a fundraiser for her Sunday.
Wow.
Congresswoman Linda Sanchez, and her and her sister are now, in Congress together. And I think that's an American story, and it's what makes this country great. And there's a lot to be proud of. There's a lot.
Now, how much of
Syria
that do you do?
messes me up. I will tell you this. Syria perplexes me on a level I have no idea.
I feel the same way.
What I would do, I would hate to be President Obama. I can't imagine. I just don't know.
I was all against Syria, and I think I still am a majority of, just because I don't believe we need to butt in everybody's business at the expense of bankrupting our own country. I think there's so many things here that we need to be doing.
Yeah.
And I'm not a fan of us sticking our nose in where it doesn't belong. However, I have to tell you, when I saw the list of countries that are allied with Syria, and I saw Russia, who's now gotten very strange all of a sudden, with all the Olympic scandal and the anti-homosexual laws, and then I saw China, who's our friend, but there's just something about China that makes me a little nervous. And then Iran, who has been a perpetual source of trouble for some time, and then Syria together. And I saw them all listed together. I don't know what was happening because I had the TV turned down. I was doing something so I could just barely hear the talking, and then I saw the 4 of those nations together. And I thought, it kind of looks like the new Axis powers. Right. And I, for a minute, thought, well, maybe that's what this is really all about, is the idea of nipping it in the bud before it becomes Syria, then calls Iran, who calls China, who calls Russia, and the next thing we know, we're all in trouble.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't just seem like something that would be this big of a deal if it was an isolated incident.
Right. I don't know. I
don't know either.
I don't know.
I still don't know that I would send a strike over there, but it was something that made me think, that does make me a little nervous.
Yeah. No, it's frightening. No, I'm torn. I 1 minute I think, well, we have to do something. We have to do something. That you can't stand by and let this happen. We have to get involved. The next minute I think, well, if we get involved, people will die. Well, if we don't get involved, people will die.
Right.
Well, you can't just, it's like dating. I mean, you can't just get involved. I mean, we go in, we're engaged.
Right.
Where does it end? If it does ever end, how many Americans die? Then I think, how many Americans die? How many Syrians die? It doesn't matter how many people die. And I just go around and around. I don't know what the answer is.
Well, what if we go in and we do it, and then Syria says, see, the United States beat me up, and then Iran and Russia and China are like, okay, well, now we hate you, and then the next thing we know. I think that if there's one thing that I see from Syria that maybe I had forgotten about and it showed me again, it's that I think that we are always sort of delicately, as a country, trying to prevent another world war. I think we're always trying to take steps away from that. And I think that maybe more than we ever as a public hear. Yeah. That we give our governments, whether they're Republican or Democrat, we give them such a hard time, but maybe we don't really know what's going on.
Well, I think there's a lot that we don't know about. I think it's complicated. I can't imagine what it's like to step into the presidency and start to find out. And I'm sure he doesn't even know.
Oh, it's why they all go white the first year they're in office.
I know, exactly.
Yeah, they see the truth.
I know, you see the truth. I don't think that's a barrel I'd like to stare down.
Or the conspirators would tell you they see the 8 guys that run the world, and then they immediately go white.
Who are these 8 guys?
Yeah,
are any of them single?
Well, and I have friends that say that 2 of them are aliens. A lot of people believe that 2 of them are off-worlders. Then it gets really crazy, right?
Really?
So it's not only globalist, it's like solar system.
In other words, if those 2 off-roaders were single, they would be geographically unfriendly.
Right, exactly. They're not only running the world for the globe, they're running it for the solar system. They're universalists.
That's great.
No,
wow.
Speaking of that, what do you think about, we're talking about aliens, what do you think about the former Canadian Minister of Defense putting that thing up, and it's on YouTube, you can go find it, saying that there are definitely off-worlders, and the United States government knows about it, and there are like 4 or 5 different species that he knows of.
I think I've dated some of them,
I
seriously.
I
know for a fact. Too. I know for a fact
but
I have.
But isn't that interesting that somebody that was as high up as him came out and said, oh yeah, they're aliens, and the governments know.
He said this.
Yes, he said this.
You have to send me the link
I
immediately
will.
at
you can
dinner.
Go on YouTube and you can look for it.
Wow, I don't know what to make of that. I have no idea. I mean, he said this. He really came out.
He really came out and said it. And he said something about how the government has known for like 50 years.
Which government? His government?
No, our government.
Oh, our government.
And their government, but our government too. And that there are that the United States government, they've been here for over like 10,000 years. And our government has been working with them for like 50 years. And there are like 4 or 5 different species that he knows of. And I think something about like not all of them have our best interest at heart.
Are the Koch brothers aliens? Because that wouldn't shock me.
What about Dick Cheney?
Dick Cheney's totally an alien. I think Sarah Palin, Dick Cheney, and the Koch brothers are definitely from the same planet, for sure.
Yeah.
That's a little conspiracy I'd like to start
I
right
think
there.
Aliens abducted Sarah Palin, removed almost all of her brain, and then put her back.
Well, I'll buy that.
I wonder
definitely.
if he mentioned. I'm going to find it right now. I wonder if he mentioned alien hybrids. But I just thought, wow, this is really interesting.
Half alien, this feels so J.J. Abrams right now, but half alien, half human?
Oh, a lot of people believe in alien hybrids. Yeah, a lot of people, because many of the abduction stories are that aliens come and they abduct you, and one of the things they think that aliens do is harvest sperm and ovums. And so what they're doing is, a lot of people believe that aliens can't. Oh, you got to get up on your aliens. They do that in
Beverly Hills, you know.
Right. That aliens can't. Yes, I think I'm a product of that. Maybe I'm half alien. That aliens, for some reason, can't reproduce, which is why the abduction stories are all about our reproductive systems. And maybe what they do is they take whatever and they make hybrids. Then they send the hybrids to Earth so they can blend in, and they sort of become the Watchers.
The Watchers. I'm writing that series, by the way. The Watchers. J.J. Abrams.
Right. You don't know much about alien history,
I don't know a lot about aliens. You know, look, my family has a ranch. Well, my sister has a ranch that's close to like the biggest like alien. It's like where all the aliens show up, apparently.
Okay.
She wants nothing to do with it. I admit. I'm like, well, aren't you interested? And she's like, look, if aliens are showing up in my backyard, I don't want to disturb them. I want nothing to do with it. I don't want to invite a dialogue. She wants nothing to do with it.
Wow.
But yet, that is where they have that huge festival I was telling you about.
Yeah.
It's like a festival that happens I think it's July or June, and let me tell you, everybody
We're already going
out of the woodwork. I'll go with you next year.
I will go with you.
I will go with you. I might be uncomfortable. I might actually totally buy everything, and it may open up my mind. But I'll go. No, but the Koch brothers really scare me.
Yeah. They might just be evil
and the secret
humans.
bank.
Okay, so this is what he said. Former Defense Minister Paul Hellyer, a Canadian former defense minister, there are at least 4 types of alien species, and they've been visiting Earth for thousands of years. The different species probably have different agendas and should not be considered as one entity. One of the species, called the tall whites, Hellyer claims that 2 of them are working with the United States. There are live ETs on Earth at the present time. A cabal formed by the Council of Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission, the International Banking Cartel, the Oil Cartel, select members of the military are planning to create one world government. They are the ones suppressing the information about aliens from the public.
You know what I think would be a good idea is some sort of show about someone stepping in and finding this out who doesn't believe any of this, but finding out that it's true. So you see this all through the eyes through someone who doesn't believe it, but then they start to find out about it.
I don't know how much of it I believe. I mean, I certainly believe that there's life on other planets, but I also believe that human beings go a little crazy with it.
Well, you know, it's tough because you say, well, to think that we're the only
right, it's ridiculous.
The only life in the universe. It's so arrogant. It's so self-centered, arrogant. It just can't be. There must be life out there. And we've talked about this, and I agree. There has to be life out there. What form that is, I have no idea. Maybe it's the form of a gas. Maybe it's some form that our brains can't even fathom.
Right.
And
maybe
knows?
It's not other planets as much as it's interdimensional, stepping through a veil somewhere, and here they are.
Absolutely.
I have no problem with that.
I
just thought that was a tremendous step for a former government official from any country.
How former is he? Is he like recently former? Is he?
I don't know. We'll have to look him up.
I mean, that would be an interesting thing.
We have to do an alien show.
If he's 30, 40 years former, and maybe he's, I don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting. But definitely there's life out there. I don't know how advanced it is.
Sure.
I would, when you look at the state of the world, there are a lot of great things going on. But when you look at the constant war and the fact that we have all this food, we have enough food to feed everyone if we just redistribute it. And, we have enough to solve our problems if we could get along and help each other and be kind and, have a heart.
Yeah.
And so, for us to then think that we're the supreme beings
ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, even dolphins and elephants are so much smarter than we are.
Yeah, they're looking
ridiculous.
at us going, what are they doing?
Right. But then you have to wonder, are we just an alien's ant farm? What? Why aren't they coming here and fixing things? Why don't the dolphins just eat us all and then say, oh, my God, you guys totally screwed it up?
I have to say, I would not mind, being eaten by a dolphin.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
You know how people say, well, I don't want to go like that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be eaten by a dolphin. I'm kind of like, that just seems like they're nice. I can't imagine.
Why don't the elephants just trample the world and get rid of us? They could if they wanted to. But they're powerful enough, but they don't because
they're kind.
They understand that's not the way to make it work.
Yeah.
Only we think that's the solution.
Yeah.
They understand that's not the solution.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We're a strange species, and I
think
it is
a strange. It is strange. I don't know why. Well, it comes down to when you look at greed and you look at what it is in us that wants to be greedy or not share or kill each other. I don't know. I don't know because I don't have that gene. I just don't know.
I suspect
I couldn't
by
kill
this
someone.
time next year you will know so much more about aliens.
You think?
We will do a show on September 12th of 2014. And you're going to be like
after we take our trip
alien expert
to Southern Washington.
Yes, and we're going to go to Southern Washington, and you're going to become an alien expert.
Oh my God. Okay. Well,
I'm surprised it doesn't fascinate you more.
It does fascinate me. Because
you have such a spiritual side.
It does fascinate me. I will tell you, it does fascinate me. I just, and I used to lay there in the backyard with my brother, and we would look up at the stars, and we would just, imagine what could possibly be up there. What is it that we don't know?
Sure.
How far does it go? When does it end? It never ends. We would have these long conversations, and I do definitely, absolutely believe there is something out there. I just don't know what it is, and I don't know how. I just wonder sometimes if it's what we think it is in our mind.
But aren't you dying to talk to groups of alien experts and find out what they all think?
I'll go with you. So obviously I am.
And then we need to go to Roswell for the yearly festival there.
Well, and maybe I'll go there with you on that.
Yep.
I mean, look, I am
interested. On Pauly Shore's bus.
And I like Pauly Shore. We go to the same gym.
I like Pauly Shore,
I have no problem with him. And I think my girlfriend should have taken the bus back.
I think she should have, too.
I think she definitely should have. But I will go with you. I will go with you. I'll make a deal. We're doing it.
We're doing it.
We're going, and we'll film the whole thing.
Yep.
We'll ask
and no questions are off limits.
Okay, no questions are off limits.
We're going to ask as many questions as we can.
We've talked about this. We've talked about the etchings and the shape and, where did this come from? And there has to be some truth to it. And definitely, I think there is.
Awesome. We're making a plan.
Okay, we're making a plan.
You're amazing. Will you come back and see me soon?
I will definitely come back and see you immediately.
I would love that. And where's the best place people can find out about you online?
Yeah, Twitter. Facebook, but Twitter. I'm leaning towards the Twitter side.
Got you.
Twitter. I've got the Twitter bug.
Yep. Now it's all about the Twitter.
Yeah, it's kind of about the Twitter for me.
Yeah, I like it. I love it too. I need to put more attention. I kind of went back to Facebook a little bit just to be. I felt like being gentle with my Facebook people for a while.
I mean, the truth is that I've been a little bit off the grid working on something, and
right. Me too.
I'm very quiet right now, and I'm enjoying that. And I think it freaks people out when you do that. Nowadays, the way things are set up.
Right. And if you feel like when you feel like being quiet, Twitter's easier.
Twitter is easier, and that's what a lot of my friends say. When you feel like being quiet, Twitter is the place.
When you feel like really connecting, which is how I felt the last month, then you go to Facebook.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
You are amazing, and I love you too, and thank you for being here. If you missed any of those links, everybody, SheenaMetalExperience.com, LATalkRadio.com. Send me an email, and I will gladly forward those links over to you. It's the Sheena Metal Experience on LA Talk Radio, and you know what we do here, people. Every Monday through Friday, 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific Time, we're ripping the veil off the human sideshow and exposing the creatures I like to call big old Homo sapiens at their most bizarre, and every day, always at their most beautiful. And that's why they call this the Sheena Metal Experience, because it's my show. That doesn't mean it's not always and forever, undoubtedly, indubitably. You know what I'm going to say, people. It may be my show, but it's always your experience. Thanks for listening. Have a great night, and I will see you all tomorrow right here on LA Talk Radio. I'll see you then.
You found the #1 internet site for irreverent, cool, and entertaining talk programming. It's LA Talk Radio. We say what we want.